Alright, so we're going to work on how to create 3D wireframe, and like I said, we're going to work off of the CamInstructor drawing here. This is Solids Lesson 2A exercise. So we did the regular example exercise together the other day, put that draft on the walls. We drew everything flat at Z0, and then we extruded and cut everything from there. What we're going to do today is we're going to treat it like we don't have solids, but I still want to be able to look at it in established depth. Okay, so we're going to draw everything at the actual depths of the edges. One of the things I've noticed, and a couple of you even out there, if you look over at the top view or the side view of the drawing here, you see Z0 is at the top of the part. Well, some of you extruded your solid up. Okay, that will count against you. If the Z origin is set to the top of the part, then you need to have your part down in negative Z, below Z0. Alright, so we're going to draw this part. You can see here XY0 is in the center, so that's going to make it a little easier with the way that everything's dimensioned off the center of it. So we'll basically anchor everything to the origin at the center of the part, and then we'll create our levels. We're going to create a solid out of this, and then you're going to get to dimension it on your own later. So let's go ahead and get started by coming over to Mastercam, and let's get a working file going. So if you haven't started a new file, go ahead and do that. Then we're going to do a save as, and I want you to navigate to that T drive folder of yours. So we did a save as. We're going to go to our thaw space folder for this class. We're going to go to our 2020 solids, lesson 2. Yes. Probably got your auto save.
No, I mean, it's not full, but it's loading.
We're going to do a save as. We're going to save this as lesson 2 solids exercise. If we look back over at our print, I believe it's 2A. This is exercise 2A. So there's what we're going to save this file as. Try, several of you while you're opening your files there, you're searching all over trying to find where you saved it. As we work through these lessons, put them in the right folder. Make sure you're saving stuff into the folders that we're working in. That way you can go right to that folder and find your file every time you need to look at it. Okay? Try to get better at keeping things organized and not all just here, there, and everywhere. Once I've got that, I'll hit save. And then, before I get too far along, I'm going to go ahead and check my autosave. So that's Alt-A. Okay. Last time we'll tell you this. This is something you need to start doing on your own. I'm going to hit that, and I'm going to make sure that it's saving using the active file name. That way, that file we just saved is where it's saving. Override existing is turned on. And like I said, I shut this off because I don't want it popping up and me not see it. It makes me think Mastercam's locked up because it's waiting on me to verify that I want it to save. So I always shut the prompt before saving off. That way it just does it. Alright. Everybody ready now? Got the file started? Okay. So the first thing we're going to draw, essentially, is what would be at the top of the part. The wireframe that would be at the top of the part. Okay. Which, on this particular part, would be basically the island here. Right? The top edge of the pocket right here, and the top edge of the holes. The outside of this, okay, this outside base, this is down 125,000. So we're not going to draw that yet. We're going to actually move everything down to 125,000 down and draw it to actually show depth with the wireframe. All right. So I'm going to start out by drawing a square that is anchored to center. That is 2 inches by 2 inches. And then I'm going to draw a second square that's anchored to center. That's 1 inch by 1 inch. And that's going to give me construction points to then go in and put these radiuses all in. Okay. So I'm going to do a wireframe, create rectangle. I'm going to go over here and click on anchor to center. And then I'm going to make sure it snaps to the origin. So origin, I turn that on with F9. Make sure it snaps to it and click. I'm just going to drag it out and click out here. Notice mine's dashed right now. I actually switched mine over to the dashed lines for construction geometry. You don't have to do that. I just did it for the other drawing that we're going to do today. It's been like that since yesterday. This one's going to be 2 by 2. I'm going to go ahead and change that back. Alright, once I've got that placed, I'll hit the enter key to lock it in. And then I'm going to do a second one inside of that. It's going to be 1 inch by 1 inch. And then I'll hit the check mark to lock that one in. I guess one of the things that shouldn't have done anything different, but one thing I do want to check, because everything I draw right now, I want to make sure it's at Z0. So up in the Home tab up here, right here you see where it says 2D, 3D. I want to, everything I create, I want it to be at the plane that I have set. So 2D is what I'm going to want. And then I can establish the depth right here by setting my Z depth. So if I have it in 2D right here, and I've got a depth set, everything that I draw is going to be at that depth. That's also in your right mouse button menu right here. Just by clicking on this, I can switch between three-dimensional or two-dimensional. And then I can type in whatever level I want to draw my geometry at right here. We're going to go to wireframe again now, and we're going to create some arcs. So if I look at this drawing, I see that I've got 1/4 inch radiuses that are anchored to the corners of that 2 by 2 square. I've then got 1/4 inch radiuses that are anchored to the corners at the 1 inch by 1 inch square. So I'm basically going to create 4 1/4 inch radius circles. So create circle center point. I'm going to make the radius 1/4 inch. I'm going to hit the lock. Then I'll place them here, 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 and right here. Then on the inside, here, 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 and here. Once I've created the last one that has the 1/4 inch radius, I'll go ahead and lock that. And now I can go ahead and create the 1/4 inch diameter through circle geometry. So I'm going to change the diameter to 1/4 inch. And I'll put the little circles here. Okay. I got all that. Once we get that, we'll go ahead and I'm going to hold shift down and select these 2 squares because I'm done with them. I don't need to leave my construction geometry on my screen. I'll delete it. The only time you would leave construction geometry on the screen is if you need it to be able to put a dimension there. Okay, just kind of keep that in mind for the drawing you do later. The only time I would leave my construction geometry on the screen is if I need it to put a dimension to. Alright, now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put these tangent radiuses in. So these are 4 inch across the outside here. We'll go to create arc tangent. I'm going to set this to a 4-inch radius and hit the lock. I'm going to go from this circle to this one. Okay. Notice how mine's not snapping to it. I better check my auto cursor. Something must be shut off. Better turn on the... Why isn't one? Oh, I see now. I see why it's not wanting to snap to it. It's because I had it set to arc 1 entity. That needs to be 2 entities. Now, there we go. Once I went to 2 entities, that made it a lot better. I'll pick the one I want to keep. Then I'll go to the next 2. Pick the one I want to keep. Do the same thing all the way around by clicking the 2 that it's going to go tangent to, and then picking the tangent arc that you want to keep. Everybody got all those going around the outside? Okay. We're going to do a 1-inch radius across the top and the bottom. So I'll switch this over here to 1 inch. And I'll pick these 2 here and what I want to keep. And then these 2 here and the part that I want to keep. Okay, now the next part, this next part here is basically going to be connecting the circles on the outside there. Okay, it's basically going to be connecting this and this, this and this. But what's important is that in your auto cursor, you have quadrants turned on, because it will let you, when you go to create a line, it will let you go to the 0 point on the circle. But if quadrants is turned off in here, okay, so if I don't have quadrant on right here, when I go to put my line over here at the other side of the circle, notice how it doesn't really snap to it. Okay, it's not snapping to the circle at all. And if I draw it up here and just kind of click wherever I think it is, what I end up with is a little piece of line that doesn't need to be there. And if I'm not paying a lot of attention when I go to trim it later, that can give me a lot of headaches when I go to solid model the part. Okay, that little piece of line that's overhanging there, if I don't get that trimmed out later, it can give me some headaches. So what I would recommend is just go to line endpoints, make sure you got in the selection settings here, turn on quadrants, and then tell it yes there. Now it will snap to the quadrant here, and then when I come up here, you can see it snap to the quadrant right there, and that way I don't have to worry about trimming that out. And then the same thing over here. Pay attention to the auto cursor. When I see that quadrant cursor icon, I click. Come down here. When I see that icon again, I'll click. Yeah. What's that? So I told you the other day that I use the divide function a lot when I do my trimming. This might be one of those cases where I wouldn't. Okay, and here's why. I just want you to watch me for a second when I go to trim this. If you're not really careful, when you go trim this, and I trim that out, I got rid of that circle I didn't mean to. Or, worse yet, sometimes when you go to trim, let me see if I can get one of them to snap to it. Sometimes when I go to trim, I do that, and I think I got it all trimmed out. But if I'm not looking really closely, I end up with this little curtail here hanging out. Alright, I've got to be paying attention when I trim that none of that's left behind, because same thing, when I go to chain that to make a solid out of it, if that little piece is hanging out there, or anything's hanging over, it will make it to where it doesn't want to extrude, doesn't want to create the solid model. So, what I would recommend you use when you trim it is go to the trim two entities, and then I would do the trim 3 for this. Okay, on the trim 3 you're going to pick basically the 2 outside pieces, so I'd pick this one, and then what you want to keep between the 2 of them. So I'm going to keep this part. Okay, this one, the trim 3, makes it to where I don't have to pay as much attention. It's going to trim this one to this one. That one's already trimmed. I didn't mean that. So this one to this one. I keep this in between them. This line to this arc. Keep this bridge between them. This line to this arc. Keep this piece between them. I just do that all the way around. Pick the 2 outside pieces and the bridge I want to have between them. Okay. A lot of time, anytime I'm using tangent circles and stuff like that, and it's kind of hard to see like that, that would be my go-to on the trimming. Okay, but that's, like I said, 9 times out of 10 I'm using the divide, but here was one of those cases where I'd probably get away from it just because you have to really be focused and make sure you don't have anything hanging out there on you.
For some reason it's not taking out that circle. It's just taking out this. Did it? There's one just clicking on the circle.
Okay. Now that we've got that, we've got the top edge created. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to go to my isometric view, and I want to basically create the bottom part of this edge. So the bottom part of this edge is down at 125 thousandths. Okay. I want to be able to literally look at it like a three-dimensional, pencil drawing, wireframe drawing. So I'm going to select everything that's on the screen right now. Just going to window around it all of it. And then over here, there's these transform functions. Okay, and these are also in the tools. There's position right here. These are transform functions right here, here, and here. These are all transform functions that are in this same menu. The two that we're going to work with today is translate and project. Okay, so first let's go to the translate. Lets you move, copy, or join entities within the same plane without altering their orientation or shape. So basically, you can move them X, Y, and Z, but you can't spin them or expand them or do anything like that, where others you can kind of do that. What we're going to do is we're going to tell it that we're going to go down negative 125 in Z, and there you see it creates basically a bottom edge. But still, I kind of have a hard time seeing the depth of that. So there's another thing when I'm trying to create 3D wireframe I like to do. Instead of just a copy of that bottom edge, I'm going to hit join here, and join is basically going to create vertices, vertical edges, where all of the top and bottom edges intersect. Now my preview kind of went away there, but as soon as I check mark out, it should show back up. And now you can kind of see a better 3D representation with the wireframe of that top island on the part. Does anybody have anything they see yet that might be an issue? Okay. Do those holes only go 1/8 inch? Okay. So I didn't mean to, I windowed around, I wasn't thinking about it, just noticed it. The bottoms of these holes is actually all the way at the bottom of the part. So actually I'm going to go back and get rid of these bottoms here. We'll put those down at 1/4 inch here in a second. Okay, so I'm going to select the vertical line going to the bottom of these 1/4 inch holes in the bottom of it. I'm just going to hit the delete key to get rid of those for now. Alright, so you can kind of rotate it around. It kind of gives you a little perception of the depth of the part. The red lines, okay, the red lines that you see, those are group entities. Those are basically the ones that you started with. And the purple lines are what we call result entities. So over here, and the reason they're purple and red is because you have these quick masks to where if you want to reselect them real fast, you can click on this little select all group entities and it'll select those, or select all result entities. Because a lot of times when you're doing transforms, you'll move the geometry and then maybe you'll rotate the geometry. If you're trying to align something with a fixture or a part, a lot of times you'll move it over to get it to the corner, and then you might need to rotate it to get it aligned with like your jaw or your fixture plate, whatever it may be. So that's just a quick and easy way for you to reselect those entities. Now to get them back to their regular colors, if you right click, there's a little button right here called Clear Colors. You can click on that, or in the Home tab, it's right here, Attributes, Clear Colors. And that will clear those back to your normal default color. Very good. Alright. Now that we've got those, we've got that top island drawn. Now I want to create basically the top edge of the base. The base is 3 by 3 and it's 125 thou down. So my working depth up here in the Home tab under Organize, I'm going to set the depth to negative 125. Notice right under that there's this little button, Change Levels. Many of you are going to create drawings for me and you're going to forget all about that they were all supposed to be on different levels. That's the button to move things around. Okay, that's the button to hit to move things around. Same thing here. There's your depth and your right mouse button. So here's your change level so you can get organized. Then over here you can toggle and turn on your attributes panel down here if you want it. That way it's always showing up at the bottom of your screen. Used to, it was always there anyhow. Okay, used to it wasn't just here in the right mouse button, it was always anchored to the bottom of the screen, and they just changed that to where you can either have it down here all the time or you can have it in your right mouse button menu. So we're going to set that at negative 125. Now we're going to draw our next rectangle, which is that 3 by 3, and notice, be careful, make sure you don't get the center of one of these arcs. See how those are snapping? Get the origin, so pay attention to the auto cursor icon before you click. And from 0, 0, we're dragging that out, and we're going to make a 3 by 3 square. Whoops. If you look at that, you see it created it down below at the 125 thou down to represent the top edge of the base. Okay. All right. Everybody got that okay? You good, Austin? Alright, so to create the bottom edge of the base, okay, I want you to watch this. So translate is an XYZ, basically delta movement, meaning everything's going to move the same amount. But project means I can take geometry that's at all different Z depths and project it all to the same place. So the bottom edge of this base and the bottom edge of the 1/4 inch holes are all a 1/4 inch down, right? So I can hold down shift here and select the square of the base, and then I can select each of the whole top portions, and then I can go here where it says project. Okay. Now, same thing in the method. You see it's got copy, move, or join. I'm going to do a join. And it says project to. You see you can project it to a specified Z depth, to a plane. If we had planes, we could do that, or to surfaces or solids. So this is what I could use actually to take lettering, for instance, that I want to wrap around a 3D surface. I can take flat lettering and actually project it to a surface and then engrave it on that surface. One of the ways you can do it. There's several ways you can do that, but this is just one. So I can take project and tell it negative 1/4 inch, and there you see it takes and projects the bottom of the base and the bottoms of the circles down to the bottom of the part. So I'm on join, My depth's -1/4 inch. And I can hit the OK. I'm going to clear my colors. All right. Next, we're going to come in here and do our delete duplicates. Make sure we don't have any of that. Does everybody have 72 entities on level 1? Uh-oh. I'm going to name level 1 while I'm thinking about it. Wireframe geometry. Delete duplicates. Then we're going to do the find overlap. Did we talk about find overlap the other day in here? Okay. We're going to do the find overlap. So I'm going to go up to my user applications, my run-ins, or hit Alt-C to open up the C-hook menu, which is what they're called. Do a find overlap. Select all. So I click in my graphics window and hit Control-C, and no overlapping entities found, which is what I'd like to see. Uh-oh, what?
It says I have 73 entities, but there's no duplicates.
Okay. So the what? It should be on your computer. On the home learning edition? It's not on there? What? I didn't know that. I'll have to ask the Mastercam. I thought they were on there. Alright, is everybody good? We're going to create a level 3. Call it our solid model. Okay. We're going to do this one just a little bit different than we did before. Rather than do the whole base and then cut everything away, we're going to build it step by step. I got their solid model level ready. Okay. So we'll go ahead and do a solid extrude. Now it's important that I'm in C-plane this time, because if I go with it in 3D now, since we've got those joined edges, if I go 3D and I click on this, you see when it gets to one of those points where it can either go down in Z or keep going around the part in the C-plane, it says which way do you want to go, and I got to sit here and click the arrow and tell it where to go each time. And I can make a real weird chain just by telling it the wrong direction. If I put it in C-plane, I can click this top edge, which is what I want y'all to do. Click the top edge here. And then we're going to click the top edge of the pocket right here. Okay. So we're going to click that top edge out here of the island and the top edge of the pocket, and then we will check mark. Okay. Now I'm going to call this the island with pocket. And now I'm going to use a little bit different function. Rather than dragging it and flipping the arrow and stuff, I'm actually going to go right here. There's a little crosshair looking icon. It says auto cursor returns you to the graphics window to select an auto cursor position. So basically what that means is if I click on that, I can zoom back in on this and let it snap to somewhere on the bottom edge here. As long as it snaps to one of these bottom edge points and I click, it will automatically flip it and set it at the distance that I want it to go. Just basically pulls the direction and the distance out of the graphics window from our wireframe that we created. Once I've got that, I'm going to hit OK and create new operation. Once again, I'm going to go to C-plane if it's not defaulting to it. And then I'm going to chain my base out here. Okay, so I went to C-plane. If you get the wrong thing, just hit the unselect, which is the U key, and click this out here. All right, now, very important. This is our base part, but it's very important that we don't leave it on type create body, because what that's going to do is create a second solid altogether. They're not one entity. Okay, we want, anytime we're building a solid model of one part, I want it to be one entity. So we want to make sure we switch that to add boss. Notice here it's got target, but the target is grayed out. Anytime there's only one other solid for you to target, it leaves it grayed out. But if I had several solids on the screen, I'd have to pick which one I'm adding this to. Okay, which one's it intersecting? It could be intersecting multiple solids. I'd have to pick which one was my target solid. And then once again, I can pick the little auto cursor crosshair. I can pick this bottom corner down here and flips that part around and does it that way. And I can tell it OK and create new. Actually, I'm just going to tell it OK. If you already hit OK, create new, just hit escape. Does everybody have this much? All right, now you got this much over there. Good. All rolls good. All right, now just for fun, we're going to use the hole feature. We're going to use the hole feature where we could have just, these are just normal through holes, simple holes. So the extrude would have worked there too. We could have hit OK, create new, chained them. But if we didn't have the geometry for some reason, we could use this hole feature right here. We can name these the 250 through holes. Notice you can orient these based on a face, okay, a plane. You can create a custom nomen so they're at a weird angle, you know, with your own little orientation. Then the position here, I'm just going to pick the auto cursor position. So I'm going to pick that. And then I want to go to the center of each one of these and click like that. Okay. Now, when I clicked, it didn't really show anything. See how those are down 125 thou? That's still because I'm still in 2D and I have it set to negative 125 thou. And if you're going, how did he just shut the shading off? I hit Alt S and that shut the shading off on my solid. Could have also when we did those, because look where it's going to want to drill those from. See where they're at down in my part? So I don't want it to do that. I'm going to go right here and hit remove all. So I hit enter and it's showing me that it's drilling them from inside the part. Hit remove all. And then I'm going to hit add position. And then I'm going to pick the circles at the top edge of the part. I didn't think about the auto cursors constricted to the 2 dimensions. So once I pick the tops of the circles, there we go. Now it's going to cut the holes from the top of the part. Now, these holes are not constrained to that wireframe, just the position of that wireframe, the center of those circles. I mean, I could change the diameter dynamically right here of these holes by typing in a different diameter. Okay, I can modify that in the chart down here. And the best part is, if I needed a hole with certain features, 1/4 inch hole with a 10 thou per side chamfer at the top, I could go here and tell it to countersink this and tell it that the countersink diameter is 270, and it will put the countersink on top of it for me, so I can graphically see that without having to go in and do it with the chamfer operation or something else. For us, these are just simple holes for now. Obviously, you saw counterbore, countersink, counter drill, and tapered holes. You could do a tapered hole if this thing had a 20-degree tapered angle. You can see it'd be like a tapered hole there, getting smaller to the bottom. Oh, yeah, negative doesn't work. You'd have to cut it from the other side if you wanted it to taper to the top. So we're just doing a simple hole through all. Like I was talking about, you don't have to do this, but I'll show it to you. I could take this gnomon, okay, and put it here and do something weird like this, like rotate it up and around. And then when I check mark, my holes are cutting at some funky angle here through the part. Okay, just by taking and spinning it and moving it to a different angle. The world. How's it doing that? Try to go that trimetric plane. There we go. All right. Everybody get their holes created okay? Save on this. Okay, so now we've got this solid created. If I look at my solids, I see the operations where the island, the base, and the through holes are there. In my levels, I can take a look and I see that I've got 72 entities on level 1, one on level 3, which should be always, anytime we're doing these drawings for me, level 3 for right now is going to have 1 entity on it. Everybody's good? All right. A couple of the other things. While you draw it, we can go to drafting. Now, one thing on this one, not drafting, sorry. In solids, we go to draft. On this one, for some reason, the draft extrude, because of the way we built the model, because the way we built it tiered instead of cutting it out of a solid block, the draft extrude on here, when I go to do a draft on this inside wall, it throws up this parasolid warning, and it doesn't want to draft using that feature. But what we can use is the draft faces, and I can pick this inside wall. I can tell it that we're going to this bottom face here. Okay. Oops. reference face needs to be the top face. That's what I want to draft from. Then I can put my angle in here. Okay. The reference face needs to be wherever you're starting the draft from, and it will let me put a draft on the inside of that pocket if I need to. And that's just one of those little quirks. Sometimes you can go back and change the way you modeled it, and it would fix it. But there is another option there. You can draft faces and then pick the edge you're drafting from. The outside does work just fine, so I'm a little confused why it got a little upset the other way, but it will draft on the outside using the extrude. Alright, has everybody got this thing drawn? Yep. I was just showing the draft. I just took the drafts back out of there. I just wanted to show you that sometimes you have to use one of the other ones. So, okay. So here's what you're going to do with the rest of your time, and you have plenty of time to get a really good start on this. Probably, okay. Some of you might even get it done. You're going to take this drawing and this drawing that we did the other day. Save this. Okay. You're going to take these two drawings, you're going to add a level 2 to them, and you're going to dimension them. Okay, and you're going to make them match the prints. Okay, you make them match the prints and dimension those. And then you're going to draw and you're going to dimension and you're going to solid drawing 2B. Which is this one right here. Now I need to show you something because we haven't stepped into this yet. Notice here in the center I put some construction. Like I was saying, I added that to have something to dimension to. I left those in there and made them the construction style lines. That way I could dimension this circle here. See the triangle. I didn't do any crazy trig to create that triangle. Okay, I didn't do any weird trig. I went into Wireframe, and underneath rectangle there's a create polygon. Okay, and you can create a triangular polygon by just telling it 3 sides, and then you pick where you want it to go to. Okay, you can rotate it if you need to, and you tell it what the inscribed or out to the flats or the what I call the inscribed circle would be of that triangle. Okay, so that's how that's created with the create polygon underneath the rectangle drop down. Okay, so what you're going to do, as if you can't see here, you're going to 3D wireframe on level 1. Dimensions on level 2, the solid model on level 3. And that's what you should have for all 3 of the lesson 2 drawings for me for next Tuesday. You got the rest of the time today to work on it. Questions? All right. Have at it.